Hey everyone, it's me Doomlink, and welcome back to Doomlink's Live Hunts. We are in Generations Ultimate for the same reason as always. I am unable to record Huntsdiverse related games unless it's the early afternoon to late evening, my time, and I suppose early hours of the morning. And I can't do 3 Ultimate unless it's a weekend, usually. Of course there are exceptions to both of those, but they are rare exceptions. For the most part, I do need to be, well, if I'm recording in the morning, which is not all that common admittedly, I do at least need to do Generations Ultimate. Anyway, if you were paying attention, I sort of contradicted what I first said, but that's alright. Doesn't matter all that much. It's an introduction that some people probably wouldn't listen to with great care. They would probably be too busy looking at other things, or noticing other things. Like how my eyes are small. Have you noticed that? It's because I just got out of bed. Anyway, Hyper G turns, sure. Wow, I actually made it in before someone else took the last spot. That's a shock. Seriously, colour me surprised. I mean, there is video evidence of that very rarely happening. Whenever I dither in getting into a room, it almost inevitably happens that I just miss out. But anyway. Whoops. You know why I just did that? You know the button that calls you to do that, right? It's R2. I've been playing too much Monster Hunter 1. I have to get back into the groove, you know. I have to remember how to play Monster Hunter properly. Not in the old PS2 style. Neoterranophobia. Again, I just refer to it as Neoterran. I don't know if that's correct to pronounce it in that way, but the reality is I can't see the P being reasonably pronounced, so I just have to go with my gut feeling and just say Neoterran. In the same way that I opt for Nahabra. Now I'm pressing what would be Y on the... Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of accidentally pressing buttons, okay? Also, as we are keenly aware, there is every possibility that they're going to just depart without me, so we'll see what happens. I may as well bring this... Oh, here I go. If I keep on bringing up that screen, you're just going to have to forgive me. I mean, if I weren't recording right now, you better believe I'd be playing Monster Hunter 1, so I'm going to have to actively force myself to not press those buttons. So, oops. Alright. I'm sure I'm taking a long time for these guys. They're probably really antsy and they're at the end of their tether, I wouldn't doubt. Insurance? Yeah, sure. That sounds helpful to the team. I don't think we would especially need it, but it's good to have it. I'll hope that I have fire shots in here, otherwise I'll have to buy them. Oh god. It means I'm going to slow everyone down even further. Too bad. You guys can just relax. They could very well be relaxed, it's just very uncommon that they would be under these circumstances. That's all I mean to say. Some may assume somehow that I'm making unfair judgments, or I'm paranoid. I'd like to think that any person who's taken the time to watch a lot of my recordings would know that what I experience in this game is for the most part all on camera, because I don't play this game in my own time. Thumb immediately went to the D-pad to move the camera. Why aren't I pulling out my gun by pressing left on the right analog stick? Anyway, let's start with... Can you fuck off? Wow, it really is like Monster Hunter 1. I'm being assaulted and aggressed by Melinks, and they're stealing my shit. You know, Monster Hunter 1 is just... It would be impossible to really enjoy it properly. Okay, let me put it this way. If you had started in 2nd or 3rd gen, even, I suppose especially 4th gen, going back to Monster Hunter 1 immediately would be almost impossible. You need to ease yourself into it with Freedom 1 first. You can't just get a full helping of the bullshit. You have to start with an entree that introduces you to the bullshit. It may still be overwhelming, but at least you have some sort of chance, some glimmer of hope of actually being able to persist and persevere through it. But I think Monster Hunter 1, just going straight into that is a bit too much. It's beyond what you might be able to comprehend. One of my viewers on, I think, my latest YouTube VOD did, you know, say with considerable force that Monster Hunter 1 is easy. He tried it out, played it, and said, Monster Hunter 1 is easy, I don't know what people are talking about. I guess they just don't have patience. Well, I suppose that would be an accurate statement, or rather implicit in the statement would be that Monster Hunter 1 requires a great deal of patience. And it does, but it's incredible. It really is incredible the amount of patience that you need sometimes. I'm not going to go into a full explanation of everything that needs to be done when you're playing Monster Hunter 1. The time will come when I can record it. But the reality is, unless you're watching me go through the process of building my character, you're not going to truly understand it. Also, hello, Koroku. But yeah, the misery of playing a game like Monster Hunter 1 or even Freedom 1 is not going to truly reveal itself to you by way of a recording, unless I were actually going through the game. I suppose what I mean when I say that is that just doing this sort of format, hunting random monsters and not worrying about anything else as far as the recording is concerned, would not quite so adequately demonstrate that. But it would, of course, showcase a lot of issues. In particular, I just hate flying. Any flying monster, anything that flies in that game is just bad news, because it'll just fucking fly around all day. But particularly the Rathalos and Raytheon monsters. Those two will not come out of the fucking sky. They'll just fly off. Actually prolong the fight far beyond what it needs to be prolonged to. Like, the length is just inordinate. And far exceeds the threshold of tolerance for most people, including myself, but somehow I can still get through it, you know. I'm not able to tolerate it, yet somehow I do, so if that makes any sense, I suppose what you would extrapolate from that is that I'm borderline losing my mind every time I fight those monsters. Anyway, it's alright. I don't mind having Monster Hunter 1 discussions while playing this game, because you know what? What is there to fucking talk about in regards to this game? I've said it all. I've really said it all, so, you know, if it's Monster Hunter related, I'll go for it. And, you know, we can always move in and out between discussing what's actually happening while I'm playing in this game, and, you know, discussing what I'm doing in my own time while playing Monster Hunter. I find it to be intensely relevant. Of course, the problem with shot types such as Flaming Level 2, or, for instance, Normal, I suppose any shot type that would have Normal Shot as its basis, such as this, is quite often victimized by body blocking, or it falls victim to such poor positioning. Well, I don't say poor positioning to suggest that the person who has positioned themselves is engaging in malpractice. I just mean to say that it's poor for me. It's disadvantageous and undesirable. Alright, you did go that way. I thought it was strange that you would go that way, but I suppose I'll have to trust what you're actually physically doing on my screen. This is the thing. It would be totally normal in first gen for a monster to go this way and then end up being over there, okay? That would just be normal. So if anyone thinks that that's, you know, my assumption was entirely illogical, you have to realize that my brain, as far as Monster Hunter is concerned, is not currently in the realms of sense and logic. It exists elsewhere. It exists in the anything's possible realm. So, there goes Bowen. Well, we technically didn't have a feint because I ate for insurance. Congratulations. It was a good run. That was indeed a hyper. Although Asuka is mindlessly shooting with Pierce to the extent where the monster is very clearly dead, but Asuka continues to shoot, which is indicative of the sheer mindlessness of the strategy. That is why lots of people employ it. Low effort for big gains. That is the reality of Pierce gunning. And I'm saddened that it has become that. The fruits of Pierce gunning used to at one time be reserved for those who were willing to join the gunner club, and your vast majority of hunters were unwilling to do so. And you know what? It was better that way, because you had less people Pierce gunning, which meant that less people were dealing a shitload of damage. That's the reality. But anyway. I've explained this before, but I would only identify as a gunner by nature in the end game. I'm not the kind of gunner who goes through the early game and mid game using a gun. And the reason why is because ammunition is expensive. You're having to pay for that when you don't have much in the way of funds. You just don't have it. You're scraping to get by. You really do have to sell your monster materials. Now, maybe it really does depend on your perspective. Some people may say that it's entirely affordable upon the basis that they are entirely willing themselves to actually sell their monster materials. And that's just incorporated into the way that they play the game. That is not how I play the game. If I'm having to sell monster materials, it's for one of two reasons. Either I'm doing the wrong thing, like gunning in the early game. I don't think that's justifiable for that reason, because it is too expensive. Or secondly, there's this weapon that I really want to upgrade as soon as possible, and I don't want to amass funds by completing quests or employing some other strategy of amassing money. And so I just go, oh fuck it, I'll sell some things that I don't need because I really want to make this now. I suppose, you know, crafting armor would also be part of that, but it's typically a weapon, you know. Tigrex Trap. Very well. This will be a thunder monster. Let's have a look and see what people are using. You're already using Hunting Horn, so you've blocked me from using that. That's why I was going to check. I don't want two people using Hunting Horn. That's really unhelpful. Yeah, I'll use a gun lance. That sounds like fun. Do I have a blunt gun lance option for thunder? Probably not. Again, thunder is one of those elements that I just don't have an option for when it comes to blunt. And it's so funny that the same can be said for awakened weapons in the games prior to this one. Thunder is just not well represented by alternative damage dealing styles, which is lamentable to say the least. Yeah, you can see that I don't have much in the way of anything here, so we'll just have to go. Or I could use the crunchy corn popper. No, it's not happening. That's a joke weapon. It functions, like it is a functional weapon, but I wouldn't use it seriously. Not in this generation of Monster Hunter. Hope these guys can forgive me for taking, you know, a full 2 minutes to get ready. They probably can. Maybe I'm just being dramatic this time around. One does need to take stock of the actual atmosphere of the room, and I wouldn't say that they're especially impatient. Let's go with Weakener. I still haven't properly evaluated the usefulness of Weakener. I just go by the fact that it's called Weakener, and yeah, presumably it has a chance. Again, this is entirely theoretical. I'm sure that there is an actual definition to the Weakener feline skill and an explanation as to its use, but this is my theory. It has a chance of very slightly reducing the health of the monster in the quest. Okay? Because I can't really imagine how else it would be helpful. Like, what do you mean by weaken the monster? I suppose it could only mean reducing its health slightly. Like, overall health. I suppose it could alternatively mean that the monster becomes more easily exhausted, but that's weird. That would be a strange thing to incorporate into a feline skill. But I suppose there is no logical reason why something that you've eaten at home is going to somehow make the monster in the quest weaker. How does that make any sense? The point is you don't look at it in that way. It's a video game, man. It's not supposed to make sense. But I still think, logically, that the monster would lose overall health in the event that it were made weak. Hold on, why am I throwing paintballs? I do that as a matter of course when playing Monster Hunter 1, because if you don't paintball the fucking monster, you're in serious shit. Well, I suppose if you bring Psychoserums, it's alright, but... yeah. I'm probably the only person playing this game who's going to actively compare it to the first Monster Hunter game while playing it. Seriously, I'd be fucking recording Monster Hunter 1 if I had people to play with, and I do, it's just, it's hard to do a live stream with that because it's not consistent. It's a very small number of people, and I don't particularly want my live stream to be dictated by the lack of predictability of that community. The good thing about this game is that I know I'll be able to get into a group, no matter what. And no matter the quality of the group. And as we know, that is, more often than not, severely lacking. I can read your messages, Mina. I don't know if you were sending them prior to this point, but there's a small insect pestering me. Maybe I should do a heavy shot. I'm sorry if I hit you, Bowen. I somehow didn't hit him. How did that not happen? Either his connection is utterly fucked in relation to mine, or just the greatest fluke of all time took place before our very eyes. I mean, how could he not have been caught up in that? Perhaps we needn't focus on the how, for indeed it has occurred. So let us not dwell on it. Whoa! Look at that, that was a crazy maneuver. From a stationary standing position, he pivoted and jumped without any lead up whatsoever into the trap. I suppose he was just really eager to get in there. He was like, fuck, that is a really appealing looking pitfall trap. I'm going to jump straight in it from an angle. I don't know, maybe that's a perfectly normal attack of the Tigrex, but I have only just noticed that. Or it left such... well, left so little impression on me in the past that I just didn't notice at all, but... I don't know. Anything that just begins from a standing start, in my opinion, is just inherently difficult to deal with because there's no lead up to it. It's not telegraphed by any means, and you have to deal with it right then and there. There's no chance to even assess what's coming. It has to be that instantaneous reaction. Otherwise you don't survive. Typically how you deal with that sort of thing, there's a lot of that style of, I guess, monster confrontation in first generation Monster Hunter and second generation Monster Hunter. The idea that there are going to be certain attacks that just have no lead up whatsoever. You know, even Monoblos and likely Diablos have that attack in Monster Hunter 1. They had those attacks removed. Even in Monster Hunter Freedom 1, you will not have a Monoblos or a Diablos go from a standing position immediately into a running motion. It doesn't exist. But in Monster Hunter 1 and likely Monster Hunter G, that does exist. The reason why that's not too terrible, it's terrible when you're not used to it, but the reason why you can get used to it and make do with that sort of entirely unreasonable style of attack from the monster is by actually changing the way you fight. You have to... it almost becomes like a dance. You have to incorporate a retreating motion with everything that you do. At times that it feels like it might be happening. At times when you think that perhaps the monster will suddenly run at you without warning. You have to incorporate that into how you fight the monster, and it's effective. It works, you know, as long as you acknowledge that there is that constant risk of the monster just out of nowhere running at you, or in the case of this Tigrex, jumping at you. You can generally avoid it. The point is you need to take preventative measures, precisely because you can't react to it at the moment, or in the moment that it happens. You have to be already maneuvering to avoid it, to actually get out of the way of it, which maybe for some people is a bit hard to get their heads around, but again, you do get used to it when you fight the monster. You understand the risk. You understand, well, it might happen, so I'll get out of the way. And a loss of DPS is just what you deal with. You make up for it by being more accurate. You have to hit the weak point very consistently. I would say that first generation Monster Hunter really incentivizes that sort of thing. Headlocking is absolutely present in a big way. Head flinches are very common. So I probably should use Blast Dash. I will, however, wait for the appropriate moment. There you go. Sorry if I hit anyone. I didn't. Oh, Wyvern Fire. I wasn't in the orange there, but it's fine. I don't especially care. How is my Blast Dash already charged up? Must have been the heavy shot after the Blast Dash in conjunction with the Wyvern Fire. That must have done it, which is impressive. I must be starting with White Sharpness, but I would rather start with White Sharpness, to be completely honest. Or sharpen up to it. And to further clarify what I'm saying, I would like to, at all times, be in it. I'm assuming all messages are coming through, because Mina in the chat said, "Can you read my message?" I'm concerned that perhaps not all messages are coming through in the chat, which would be a bit of a travesty. I'll have to check my computer to see if any other messages are coming through. I'd like to do Dragon Blast, but I don't want to squander it. Do a Blast Dash though, that definitely hurts. Sorry Bowen, this time I did hit you, but it was not intentional, and you have to be assured of that fact. Not that I can personally assure him of that at this stage, unless I were to whip out the old keyboard, but you know what, I'm not doing the keyboard thing. It's stupid. I'm not going to be using a keyboard in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate as a form of protest, because the keyboard that I'm using in 3 Ultimate is a wireless keyboard, and the Switch does not support wireless keyboard functionality, if you can fucking believe it. How do you go from the Nintendo Wii U having that functionality to the Switch, which does not possess it? How is that possible? How do you downgrade functionality from one console to the next? The only way that you'd be able to argue that, typically, is a console with backwards compatibility that then, in the next generation, does not possess backwards compatibility. Now, that can be done for certain reasons, and possibly perfectly reasonable reasons. That would be to resell the games digitally as software, which is a real shitty move by the company that produces the console, but, you know, there's a reason behind it. But as for the lack of functionality in USB fucking keyboard technology, I mean, what are we talking about? Get a grip, Nintendo, seriously. Someone's gonna say, it's a portable console. Is it? Well, what's the dock then? What's that for? Make the dock better. Because, of course, that is the thing with the USB ports on it. Just make the dock better, that would be the solution. Anyway. There are 2 ways that you can go to get to that cave. This way is a bit more fun, it's just less effort. I would honestly say it's faster too. It's still 2 areas like the other direction, but I just feel that this is faster. At least in this game. Great! That would be... and then you're going to combo me, because in this game, it's actually very difficult to get 3 hits in a row. Great. Are you going to combo me with 4 fucking hits? How totally unreasonable was that? I mean, admittedly, I was a bit too overeager, jumping straight in there without assessing the situation, but fucking hell, I wasn't expecting to be punished to that extent. I probably have Wyvern Fire ready to go, and this is the time to do it. You better fucking believe it. I'd just like to get it off before the bastard dies, to be honest. Can you believe that this Tigrex has survived so much longer than that Soldiers Queen? Like, that was crazy. Well, that is crazy. We're still hunting it, so it's present tense. Thank you very much. I should have done a Dragon Blast. I'm sorry, Bowen. I apparently, once again, have failed to hit you, and that's a good thing. Don't limp out of this area. Are you kidding me? What the fuck? This asshole is dragging on the fight to an unreasonable extent. Whatever. What am I supposed to say? Yeah, I'm just making sure that all the messages are coming through. They certainly are. Very good. Whoops. Just defaulted to the button press that I usually use to run forward. It's worth mentioning that I do use this same DualShock 3 controller for all of my monster hunting at this point, except for 3 Ultimate. For 3 Ultimate I use another controller that I'm deeply familiar with, which is the Classic Controller Pro. It's interesting going from this controller to the Classic Controller Pro, though. It's not the best controller in the world, but it's fucking sturdy. It is definitely sturdy. It has survived a lot of Monster Hunter, and a lot of button mashing. It has withstood the test of time. It really has, because to play as many hours of Monster Hunter on that controller, and a lot of it was button mashing. Like, you know, when I talk about my history as the undefeated and undisputed champion of fucking arm wrestling in the European tri servers, you know, that was done on that fucking controller. I thrashed the ever-loving shit out of that controller, and it functions just as it did the day I got it. Even now, and it looks fine. The only thing that's not fine about that controller is the fact that it's got a glossy face, so all the fingerprints are entirely visible on it. I mean, you can wipe it and the fingerprints go away. I'm not saying that there's, you know, 12 years worth of fucking fingerprints on the thing, but still, that would be the only aspect of the controller that doesn't look nice. Well, that's 3 mantles in one hunt, because if you noticed, I did carve one, so there you fucking go. How good is that? Fuck off. Seriously. I'm assuming we're doing turns. Remember when I said that Tigrex mantles are the mantles that I seem to get most often? Well, there's your evidence of that. 3 in one fucking hunt. I mean, that's pretty crazy if you think about it. Even if it's a hyper, that is considerably good. Of all the mantles that I have, I do think Tigrex is the one that I have the most of. But what I can say is whether that's the mantle that I have the most of or not, it does feel like every time I fight Tigrex, I get one, so yeah. How many am I holding? I must have almost 20 by now, if not 20. 22. That's a lot. Player 2, skip. The reason why is because it's more fun to join someone else's quest. I mean, yes, I could technically take that opportunity to post something that may appear interesting to me, but again, no matter what, that's going to be less enjoyable for me than joining a quest that someone else has posted. I've explained the logic of that before. I suppose, by way of experience, you would understand that. Or you just wouldn't understand it, and perhaps it wouldn't be worth trying to explain it. But, yeah. It just feels more worthwhile to do something that might benefit someone else. versus posting something just purely for my own personal enjoyment. Rather, much of the personal enjoyment that I get is hunting with the knowledge that someone might benefit from it. See, look at this. I would not have considered for so much as a moment to post Hyperathian, but someone's gone and done that. And I wouldn't have considered it because, you know, it doesn't strike me as all that fun necessarily, but it will be. Someone else has posted it, and I'm going to enjoy it. And, yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I said that I wouldn't explain it, but I have done so. What would I like to use? Heavy bow, but what bow am I using for dragon? Bow of Vice and Violence? No. Would be nice to use that, though. I don't often use that. It's not Magna Star Will, I don't think. Oh, it's Polestar Tangaroa. Yeah, that's right. You don't actually require load up to be able to get a level 4 shot on this, and level 4 shot in the case of this particular bow, which is indeed the Nakakos bow, is heavy level 5. Very good. I'm so sorry that I, as per usual, am keeping the team waiting, but I'm going to stop apologizing and start, you know, owning it. Here I am, I'm Doomlink, I take time to set up my hunts, because I've got options unlike some of you evidently. Like, I've got options. So. And I'm not rubbing it in their faces, they're in the hundreds of hunter ranks, they should have options. It's just a sad reflection of the way people hunt in this generation of Monster Hunter, that they don't have options in spite of their high hunter rank and the amount of time they've put into the game. It's either demonstrative of their lack of experience in Monster Hunter, or just the wrong fucking attitude when it comes to doing it. When it comes to playing the game. You know, your objective in the end game of Monster Hunter should be to build your character. Now, using the same loadout for every quest is not building your character. Doing that hundreds of hours in is not doing any favors to you or your character. So, yeah, I am definitely going the long way, so I'd better go here. Those guys had the right idea. Again, everyone has... It is every person who plays this game. It is for every person who plays this game to make their own decision on how they play it. But you're not going to enjoy yourself using the same loadout for most of your hunts. I really did think she would start here. I don't know what I'm fucking doing right now. Whatever. I hate this map. I really do. I hate it. And even going this way is not going to take me to where I need to go. I hate this fucking location so much. It is the most convoluted and illogical map in the series. In the series, I'm taking every single map in the mainline series into account when I say that this is a dog's dinner. It is a fucking embarrassment. I don't know who designed it, but I am almost assured of the fact that whoever did design it did so with the full intention of making it as confusing as all possible. And fuck that person for doing that. Seriously. Like, it's not funny, it's not clever, it's not a good idea, it's stupid. I guess making maps that are logically set out is just not in vogue anymore. So we need to start making super confusing fucking maps. That's the new challenge, guys. The game's getting easier, but you're fucking lost. So I don't know, makes up for it, doesn't it? I'd like to get hits off on the head, it's just my positioning hasn't been great. Very heavy damage if I can get it on the face. Get it? Heavy damage? Doomlink, you are a born comedian. I probably shouldn't readjust my camera after having positioned it favorably for heavy. It's only reducing my fire rate. I think I might have missed that charge. I suppose I readjust the camera so that I can better assess my surroundings, because you become a little bit tunnel visioned when you're having to do this. Maybe tunnel vision wouldn't be an appropriate term. Your perspective of what's around you is restricted. Oh, fucking hell, there's an example of that. There's a perfect example of that. Because I had to aim my camera so unreasonably high to cover that amount of distance between myself and the monster, I couldn't even see the imminent tail flip attack. And she really does make it clear she's going to do that. She literally just runs up to you, getting ready to do it. Oh dear. It's a rather intimidating attack. I don't know who is throwing those flash bombs, but it should not be necessary for me to explain to this person that you can't throw a flash bomb into the rear, into the behind of the monster and successfully flash them. It needs to be in line with their fucking face. Now, at least that was an attempt to get it in line with the face. It was still a pathetic attempt because it failed. I mean, if you're struggling with flash bombing a monster in this game, it's time to maybe go into a solo quest and train up. It's not fucking hard. I wouldn't even say I'm especially well practiced in using flash bombs, and I think that's fairly well evidenced by the fact that I never fucking use them. Yeah, thanks for the ping. Shut up. I'm going the long-ass way. Cole made the mistake of following me. You know, God forbid I follow the monster in the direction to where it flew, right? Fuck that. What a truly absurd notion. Oh no, it's not that I was out of range of the roar, it's that we had the high-grade earplugs. Hunting horn song in effect. That's why none of us were actually affected by that. I'm getting a lot of these shots squarely on the fucking face. She must be in pain. At least you'd hope so. I think I was in the middle of discussing something, but I've forgotten it now. It was probably me whinging about something, so I'll move on. What the hell kind of movement is that? No. Oh yeah, it was about this guy being entirely incapable of throwing flash bombs, but he finally succeeded. I think I might have missed the head there. That's alright. Again, they weakened Rapid so that... Thank you for that. They've weakened Rapid so... let me actually enunciate this properly. They have weakened Rapid so that players may be better incentivized. I literally can't talk suddenly. I don't know what happened. Yeah, so that bow users can be better incentivized to use heavy shot. You have to work for that rapid damage, you know, by using heavy. And just avoiding rapid, I suppose. I still use rapid because I can't not. It's so good, but yeah. Good hunt, but fucking hell, that was some bad flash bombing. I'm almost embarrassed for the guy. Some people may wonder why I don't bring flash bombs and sonic bombs. It's not even that I actively... This is where things get funny. This is where it becomes very, very clear that I'm a casual hunter. You know, this is what separates me from non-casuals. Yes, I'm very experienced in Monster Hunter, but I'm still a casual, and this is why. My inventory is set up to be changed as infrequently as possible, without any consideration given to the quest that I'm departing on. The only way that my inventory is going to change in reflection of that is depending upon my weapon choice. So if I use a bowgun, I'll add ammunition to it or whatever. If I'm using a bow, I'll add coatings. Things like that. I suppose we could, in the context of Generations and Generations Ultimate, include oils for Sword and Shield, but I don't even remember to do that because it hasn't been a well-established requirement in my mind. You know, I don't have anything in the way of muscle memory when it comes to putting oils in my inventory for Sword and Shield. It's not that I'm averse to the idea of using oils, it's that I never remember to do it. So, there you go. Furthermore, well, no, that's the point that I wanted to make. The reason why I don't bring flash bombs and sonic bombs is because I've become so used to having an inventory that doesn't really need to be edited at all, that by the time I've realized that it may be helpful to bring flash bombs or sonic bombs, I've already departed on the hunt. So I don't carry them very often. You know, I always carry certain things. I always have both of each drink. I'm carrying Mega Dash Juice whether I need it or not, because to be honest, I only carry it for bow. That's the only reason why I would use Mega Dash Juice. I don't use it for Dual Blades, and I certainly don't use it for anything else. It is only for bow. And some people would see that to be inefficient. This is the point. Some people value the space in their inventory differently. Some people think that the space in their inventory should directly reflect what they need in the hunt. For me, it reflects what I'm likely to need in most situations. I always carry antidotes regardless of the hunt. It's so that I don't have to look at the monster on the board and go, can this monster poison me? Or are there small monsters like ear prey in this area that are going to hit me with poison tags? Now that's probably not entirely unusual, but the point is that my inventory is designed to not be changed very much. I will bring sonic bombs for this hunt because I'm actually thinking about it. I'm cognizant of the fact that I don't often bring these sorts of things for these hunts, so I'm going to do it this time, but I will very rarely do that. Now, that may be something that I can resolve to improve, but again, I think the fact that I'm in this situation at all shows very clearly that I'm a casual. But there's a difference between being a casual and just being downright bad, or actually lazy. Being downright bad or actually lazy would mean things like using a really inappropriate element for a monster, or... whoops, I don't want to use this setup. Apparently my explanation was thoroughly uninteresting to the live audience. But anyway. This is the thing, I don't like actually seeing the viewer counts because it's not actually especially relevant to me, but when it's there you can't help but look at it and it starts to bother you sometimes. But anyway, it makes you wonder, well, what would you have me do? I mean, do you want me to do a handstand in a clown suit? Will that keep you watching the fucking live stream? I don't know. Sometimes I just don't know, but it is what it is. It just frustrates me when people don't contribute at all and they just leave for no particular reason. Anyway. I'll only mention that occasionally, but it does bother me when I'm having to look at that fucking viewer count. I have to try to cover it somehow. Because it's not important. That's why I usually cover it. Anyway, yeah, let's actually make use of sonic bombs for once. I have not eaten, so I will do that. These guys are, as usual, already readied up, and I can't say that Cole is using the same thing constantly. He switched to Sword and Shield, yet he's still ready before I am. So I suppose I'm just slow. I've got some pretty useless fucking feline skills here. But that's alright. He's using the Nardebosh. Well, that's what it was called in Portable Third and Try. Not officially in Portable Third, technically. There is no official name for any weapon in Portable Third unless the translation was the same in English as compared to the Japanese version. And the reason being, of course, that that game did not get an official translation. It's only a fan translation. Basically, they went back and edited some of the weapon names to reflect 3 Ultimate names. Well, some things hadn't been put in Try. Well, let me say this. Things that appeared in Portable Third, which later appeared in 3 Ultimate, obviously got official translation, so they did go back and edit that. But for anything that had already appeared in Try, they did translate already in the fan translation of Portable Third without having to go back and edit that, because Try obviously came out before Portable Third in the West. Doomlink using sonic bombs, what the fuck is going on? And Doomlink using Charge Blade, here we go. Oh, someone else is already using sonic bombs very well. I was, regrettably, stuck in that moment. In rather familiar wind pressure. I was going to say a flash bomb out of that would be desirable, but guess what? A mid-air paralysis out of that. Well, that's a great way to totally waste that paralysis, but I guess that wasn't anyone's intention, it just happened. I wasn't the one building up KO, so, you know, I can't say if it were obvious or not that a KO was imminent, but if I had any inkling that that might be happening, I would not have persisted with the KO. They would not have happened. Can you get in here? Very good. I really should be working on Red Shield, and I'll do that now. Whoops, pressed the wrong button. Would have liked to have been able to roll through that, but I didn't. Okay, I think we all recognise that. That would have been a very, very fucking clean guard point. But it didn't happen because he got flinched. Would it have been a guard point? I think so. I really do think so. I'm sure that you guys could watch that back and tell me if it would have been, but yeah, it looked like it. It really did look like it. That was a nice tail cut. I mean, this is pretty smooth going. This is a smooth hunt. I liked it. Alright. He's enraged, so it's not going to work. Do your jump. I'm ready for you. Well, I would have been, but I forget that what you do in this game is you pop out, then you run. It's actually by design that he does something like that, because you become used to just the immediate jump out of the sand, so your timing is different. But admittedly, if you're doing a dive, it should still cover you. This guy is flash bombing like a fucking second gen hunter. It's getting really pathetic. Prepare una trampa. I'll give you Trumper, Mr. Trumper. I'm getting terribly flinched right now. It's really fucking with my DPS. It'd be great if you can get in this pitfall sometime soon. Oh yeah, and the fact that I never trap monsters is also... Look at these people fucking sonic bombing. You either do it or you don't. Seriously, if you don't know how to use them, then don't bother. But yeah, the fact that I very rarely trap is also an indication of the fact that I'm pretty casual. I just sort of play in a very vanilla fashion. Trapping the monster? Too much strategy, man. That's not to say that I don't strategize. I do think that I was left very... well, how do I say? Frustrated by the fact that every time in previous games I wanted to strategize, the team just couldn't hack it. They couldn't do it. All they had to do was follow very basic directions, and they couldn't do it, so... Well, thank you for that. I don't need the tail, but it's good of you to ping to remind us. See, every single one of us, except for Bowen, went back to carve it. Well, actually, I don't know if Cole ended up carving it. The thing is, and I've said this before, I always clarify it when I've said it before, because, again, for those who go through all of my recordings, it's important for me to let them know that I remember that I've made the point before. I'm not some senile guy who keeps saying the same thing over and over again. But, you know, there's always someone who hasn't heard it before, so I say it. The reason why I noob carve things like tails is because when the monster leaves the area, I'm usually so focused on fighting the monster that I don't take the time to consider whether something has been broken and there's something for me to carve in the area, I just immediately pursue the monster. Which is not a great idea. Well, I was unable to get that out in the time that Red Shield was there, so too bad. Well, I missed my Ripper Shield. Bad luck. Couldn't even get one fucking file out of that one. That was pretty bad. Hey, good paralysis. That's Energy Blade right now. Up you go, Bowen. The last place I want to be flinched is between the legs of a Diablos when he's getting ready to charge us. That's not great. That's a pretty clean fucking mount. Can't deny that. This has been a good hunt. I like this. I've not especially contributed to the... I guess the smoothness of the hunt, but... Well, that was my contribution, that mount right there. That was my fucking contribution. Was it intentional? Not especially, but... Well, not at all, actually, if I wanted to be realistic about it. He's going to limp off, possibly. There you go. DPS has not been lost, thanks to Mr. Hunting Horn with the high-grade earplugs. Fuck off, asshole. Good job, says Cole. Yeah, it was a clean run. I would have loved to have killed him here, but that would require a bit more of a lockdown than that. It is what it is. Oh, that stamina consumption is so beautiful. One thing with Monster Hunter 1 is that stamina consumption is much worse. If you're having to do the... I suppose the sprint is what you would call it, to differentiate it from the standard run. So when you're in the area with the monster and you're running especially quickly. Honestly, that is fucking... terribly draining on one's stamina. Let's keep it together, guys. We don't need to fail this now. Why do you take... Like, how could you possibly think the monster was not enraged in that moment? The speed of his movement really gives it away. You don't even need to look for the black smoke near the mouth. The speed of the monster makes it clear. Why isn't the Sonic Bomb working? I suppose it's not a real problem to waste it, it's just kind of silly. I don't know. Well, Bowen will make it back. As I always say, it's a waste of a Diablos hunt if you can't break both horns, or if you don't break both horns. Indeed, both are broken, so that was a worthwhile hunt. Every time you fight a Diablos, this is very important, no matter what game you're playing, you need a chance to get the rarest horn. You always need that chance. If you're fighting a Diablos and that chance is not present, it's a waste. And it doesn't help you at all, because at some point, you're going to need that rare horn. So you may as well take advantage of all of your Diablos hunts to increase your overall chances of getting them. I cannot believe how docile you are. Oh my god, you are so docile. Look at this. He refuses to fucking attack me. In Monster Hunter 1, they only attack you. There is no animation where they just fly around aimlessly. It doesn't exist. If they're flying, it's to get into position to attack you. And Vespoids are fucking relentless in that game. They will not leave you alone at all. And the way they position to hit you is so perfect, it's very hard to avoid it. Just dealing with one is a big deal. Like, well, what I should say is that if you're focused on something else and you're not fighting the Vespoid in question, just one of them will constantly hit you. And of course, there's that chance that you'll get paralyzed on top of that, just in case that wasn't annoying enough on its own. But imagine dealing with 6 of them Yeah, 6 of them with that laser-focused targeting of you and that constant, persistent attacking of you that just fucking refuses to stop. That is the Vespoid situation in Monster Hunter 1. And I would say that that would be for the whole of 1st gen, to be honest. Let's get igneous. I've done this quest a few times, but I don't mind doing it on camera again. If it were a choice between this fucking thing and Silver Rathalos Hyper, I think I know what I'd choose. I've done my fucking time with Silver Rathalos. I don't need to do it anymore, so I'm very happy to have this on offer. To be honest. Very happy to have this on offer. We've lost one of our hunters, but I'm sure the space will be replaced soon. I suppose my viewers at this point just don't expect me to record at this time. Sorry. It benefits some people, doesn't benefit others. But I suppose I so infrequently record at a time that benefits that group of people that when I do actually record, they're not even around. But that's alright. Oh, what a lovely set. This is lovely. You're supposed to use this in conjunction with a non-elemental weapon though. See, the problem with this is that this weapon is designed to have high elemental damage, but this is supposed to take away your element. This set here is very good for raw weapons. Weapons that don't have element or status. So he has unfortunately undermined his own strategy by using this hammer, but whatever. He's obviously under the impression that this is... Well, I suppose... This is the reason why he's using this hammer. It's for the sharpness. I get that. Maybe that's why he's doing it. Maybe he's assessed that no matter what, even if he loses that element, he's still better off using this hammer than other hammers because of the sharpness that it has. But I don't know if that's true. Isn't Nagakuga still an option in this game? I haven't seen anyone use the Nagakuga hammer, but I think it could be better. It might not be, I could be wrong. Actually, come to think of it, yeah, my idea of Nagakuga hammer, to be completely honest, is founded in a game that includes Lucent Nagakuga, which has a better option than, say, standard Nagakuga for that sort of thing. So, yeah, maybe that ends up being the best choice. I think it would be unfair to say that he's undermined his strategy by choosing that hammer, but I'm not thoroughly convinced that that was his best choice. I'd like to have a look through the weapons myself, but let's just say it's not a bad choice. I don't know if it would be faster to Farcast. I'm not going to, not at this point. It does take a little while to move through those two areas, but it's fine. Thanks for the ping. Maybe he did it because I was walking in a circle. It's funny, the natural state of a person when they're unsure as to where to go is to walk in a circle. You see it all the time, and I do it too. Ew! Fucking Valor style. You make me sick. Imagine using Valor style. Imagine actually sitting down and saying, I'm gonna use Valor style. I love Valor. It's one of the reasons why this could have been a terrible game. But they don't force me to use that shit, so I don't have to worry about that. Oh, they come to think of it. 3 people running KO is probably a bad idea. We're all hogging the head at this point. This is not good. Well, I was hogging the head in that moment. But that's alright, we just have to be careful. To try and not step on each other's toes. That sort of thing. I think the hunting horn guy's just going to have to live with fucking off, because we're going to have enough of a hard time negotiating this head with 2 hammer users, to be honest, so... The hunting horn guy's gonna have to... Look at this fucking asshole, what a dick! If I had my keyboard in, imagine being this Bowen guy, dealing the least amount of damage between all 3 of the KO users, and unreservedly super pounding the fucking head with his hunting horn. You absolute moron. Fuck off and do your corner horning, to be honest. Like, forget attacking the monster at this point. You're reducing the DPS of the actual damage dealers just so that you can think that you're helping. Just corner horn. You'd actually achieve more. Fucking dickhead. I can't believe what I just witnessed. You know, I'm ready to be courteous and avoid hitting people, whereas this Bowen guy is just like, I'm gonna super pound the fucking head. What a turd. And he did it twice in a row as well. See, that sort of lack of sensitivity to the hunters that you're playing with just frustrates the hell out of me. You know, I mean, sorry, Oscar, you did run into my attack, but no matter what, it is risky to do a super pound like that with a hammer, and people can line up with it, and it's not great, but... If you're going to do a super pound, it has to be localized to the head. If you attack the body with a super pound, you're risking hitting your teammates, because... If you aim for the head, at the very least you can say, well, you shouldn't have been near the head, because that's my territory. But if you start super pounding the body, and you're hitting people away, there is no excuse for that. You have to just not do that. You have to either do golf swings on the body, which can still hit people, but at least it's in return for very good damage, or you have to aim exclusively for the head. 2 hammer users can definitely coexist, but not with a guy like this hunting horn wonder boy. You fucking idiot. What do I have? Your time isn't worth as much as you think. You can wait or you can leave. I love that. That's great. You could win an award for being the dumbest Gen U hunter, my friend? No, I mean, I'm not. I don't really have anything that's appropriate for this specific situation, but seriously, fuck this guy. He's an asshole. I have a lot of shouts. I mean, if you think the shouts that I have here are in any way vituperative, you should look at my fucking 4 ultimate shouts. My 4 ultimate shouts are just downright fucking... Ugh. They are very offensive. Because I'm telling you, the 4 ultimate community was fucking dumb. They were fucking dumb. Really, really dumb. So I had made shouts to accurately reflect that. My shouts in this game are pretty tame in comparison. Okay, well, you get me on the edge of your leg like that. That's great. Can't get over this Bowen guy. Completely insensitive to the fact that he's one of 3 KO damage dealers, and he still, you know, does the X and A attack. X plus A attack on the head. Doesn't give a shit. He's just like, whatever, man. I'm here to play the game, you know? This is how I have fun, so deal with it. Absolute loser. Any amount of breathing that takes place on the part of this person on this earth, breathing our oxygen, is something that I would call profligate expenditure. You know, any amount of oxygen consumption from this person. Anyway. Let's try to kill the Rathalos in this area. We'll kill him before he sleeps. That's not gonna work, man. You're a dragon, you can fly over it, except you can't. This is the funny thing. You know how there's that invisible barrier there that prevents the Rathalos from flying over that? In 1st and 2nd gen, there was no such invisible barrier. Now, this really caused issues. There's a reason why Rathalos cannot realistically fly between here and there. It's because what if he misses and falls in the lava? That's what would have happened back in 1st and 2nd gen. He would have just fallen in the lava and you'd be watching him swimming in lava for a while, and then he'd have to take time to readjust himself. It was just a shit show. Capcom got the point. They realized, well, we can't have the monster go wherever it wants. Sorry about that, Pickle. Oh, I was hoping for a turnaround, but that's alright. You still got me. Despite my repositioning, you still fucking got me, you arse. Look at him go. Look at him super pounding without any concern for Pickle. No concern at all. I really thought that I moved myself to avoid that, but fine. This is a common question, Kodoku. Very common question. I've been asked it over and over again. I don't blame you for asking it again, I just wish that more people could hear me say it, but I can't record Elden Ring. It's because I don't have a separate streaming PC. And if I were to record Elden Ring on the same computer that I record through OBS with, that would cause a lot of problems. OBS is very sensitive. You almost can't be utilizing resources on your computer at all for OBS to be comfortable. OBS is very, very sensitive. Like, this is the thing, OBS doesn't take up much in the way of computer resources, and even if I'm playing a game that's taking up only 60% of my computer's resources, OBS is like, nope, can't do it, I can't survive. This is too much. That's OBS. So, yeah, I can't do it on the same computer. And that's why I can't do Elden Ring. I could try, I mean, I have not actually tried, admittedly, but, you know, I couldn't do Monster Hunter World when that came out. I mean, I could... Everyone was complaining about World running really poorly on PCs, but I was running it at, like, what, 120 FPS, 1080p, like, max settings, without any issues. So, with that taken into consideration, that's not me flaunting my PC, that's to say, even with a PC that can do that, I would drop World to 60 FPS and then record through OBS, and OBS couldn't handle it. It would absolutely choke on that. So, from that experience, I can pretty comfortably say that Elden Ring, which can only sometimes run smoothly on 60 FPS on my machine, not on account of my machine's ability to deal with the game, but rather the game's really fucking inefficient design for use with computers. Yeah, OBS isn't going to be able to handle that. Frog's Face, Demon's Heart. Who the fuck came up with that quest name? Seriously. No, it's fine. If even you are asking at this stage, it means that many, many people probably haven't heard it. So, I'm happy to put the record straight again. I don't avoid recording Elden Ring because I either don't enjoy the game or because I would rather not record it. To be honest, I wouldn't put too much time into recording it because I do have Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and soon I'll also be doing Dark Souls 2, and I want to be able to contribute to those live stream series as much as possible, so to be honest, I wouldn't be putting much time into Elden Ring, but yeah, I'd record it. For sure. I think it would be enjoyable, and I think people would get a kick out of watching how I would go through Elden Ring, because it might be very different to, you know, either a later Souls player or someone who hasn't played Souls going through Elden Ring, because I would just approach it very differently, you know. I've been absolutely submerged in Souls since Demon Souls came out, and the things that I value are perhaps very different to some people, so not only would I approach it differently, I would also complain about certain things that others wouldn't even think about. They'd be like, well, okay, I hadn't even considered that to be an issue. Now, that's not to suggest that they're somehow deficient in their ability to evaluate the quality of something. It's just that your perspective changes drastically depending on what you value, and sometimes based on what you've experienced, and I think that would be what I could bring to the table with an Elden Ring recording, but I still don't want to go out of my way to try and record that, because I'd need a separate computer to do that, and I just don't have that option at this stage. Why have I forgotten what was put on the board? Bowen posted it. It was... Should I go through the monster list? You know, in the time that it would take me to go through the monster list to jog my memory, I would sooner be able to just check the fucking quest list. It is, yeah, Tetsuka. Ugh. That's alright. I'll bring Sword and Shield, and... oh god, what's the ideal element again? Is it water? Might be water? Water is... presenting itself to me. Yes, it's water. It's funny, I had no specific memory of it being water, but my instincts told me that it was water, so I'm glad that I was right. Although it didn't... oh well, we could do that as well. Let's do Blunt Sword and Shield. I must use my Blunt Longsword set for that. Do I? I must. Oh, okay. That's fine. Imperial Band. Need to manually set my Hunter Arts, obviously. Sword Dance 3. And Chaos Oil 3. Sorry, guys. Oh, my neck. And as usual, I'm keeping you waiting, and I recognize that. I just can't remember the last time I used this Sword and Shield. I probably used it once on camera and then never again. Not because I have an issue with the Sword and Shield, but because I just haven't found the occasion to use it. Well, the occasion is now. Let's do it. These guys are cheering. Oh, good on them. Let's get into position. There you go. I'm glad that timing worked out. Need to get that tail. Ah, fuck off. I have been using Sword and Shield in Monster Hunter 1. Feels a bit weird to go from that to this. I actually prefer the way it feels in Monster Hunter 1, if you can fucking believe me. Because it has that jump forward attack for the... I had turned around and pulled up my shield and it still wasn't good enough for you, game. Am I actually too fast for the game to keep up at this point? I think so. That's the way it feels. I've now surpassed the game. Feels good. Here we go. Oh, look at that. It's the... oh, you're fucking upswing, man. You see, it was only by pure coincidence that I wasn't... Actually, to be completely honest, had I been upswung by that, it wouldn't have been as bad. Now that I think about it. I do sometimes forget that being upswung in this game is not as bad as other games, but anyway. As it so happens, being fucking slammed by a super pound is just as bad, so... Oh, excuse me, no, I'm being an idiot. I thought Pickle Joe was the hunting horn guy before. No. That was Bowen. That is the guy that I have no respect for. Pickle Joe's fine. Learn who your targets are in battle, Doomlink. It helps. Yeah, I love Sword and Shield so much. Such a good weapon type. If you really, really immerse yourself in the dynamics of Sword and Shield, you'll find that it is the most dynamic of all the weapon types, and it's just so fun. It's so good, it's so mobile. Your effectiveness with it is so dependent upon your ability to keep up with the monster, your ability to judge whether you can get these attacks out or you should instead retreat or shield or something like that. Of course, Greatsword is very much like that, just in a very different way, which is why Sword and Shield and Greatsword are my two favourite weapon types. But you know, they're opportunity-based, but in the opposite way from each other. They're on two opposite ends of a spectrum, but at the same time they become rather similar in how you make use of them. Oh, fucking hell. It's alright, I can't complain too much about that. I have made use of that particular hunter art with the light bowgun many a time, and I have furthermore fucked up teammates in so using it, so... Nicely done. That was very good, Pickle Joe. I was able to see that you were the one who dealt the killing blow, and it was a cinematic killing blow, to say the least. Sadly, I don't receive any benefit from doing hyper monsters, except to have substantial hunts that take a little while. I can't get any HRP anymore. What sucks? Now, this is what sucks, ladies and gentlemen. It was a huge mistake of Capcom to decide that once you hit Hunter Rank 999, you can no longer see your Hunter Rank points. That was a big fucking mistake, because there is no longer any... Well, I suppose there is a measure for experience in the game beyond Hunter Rank 999. That would be playtime and weapon uses, as well as quests completed. But I think retaining the Hunter Rank points would be the best thing to do. Why make it so that you can't even see how many points you've acquired since reaching the max level? I ask that question because in the past Capcom has done that. I don't know how they did Hunter Rank 999 in Tri. That was the first game where Hunter Rank 999 existed. I never hit 999 in that game. That took a lot of time to do that. Like, a lot of time. I was Hunter Rank 568 and I'd put in, like, over 2,000 hours in that game. So, you know, it was a big deal. And regardless, I can say that in Monster Hunter 1, you hit max high rank, well, in Monster Hunter 1, and if in G rank, you hit the end of G rank, so it's basically Hunter Rank 20, Hunter Rank 20 for Monster Hunter 1, Hunter Rank 30 for Monster Hunter G. When you hit that maximum high rank, you still increase your HRP. And it just goes higher and higher and higher. Now that's a good thing. I think that's positive. Thanks for hunting, says Bowen. Yeah, fuck off. Get out of here. Good luck, he says. Well, he's a nice enough guy, it just so happens that he's got no regard whatsoever for his teammates, so... It's alright. He's innocently destructive to the team. I'd rather that than a person who is... Well, he could be cognizant of the fact that he's fucking up his teammates. I don't know. Like, I actually don't know what's in his head. I can't possibly imagine, but he's at least a nice person. I suppose it's possible to be extremely... inconsiderate whilst simultaneously being nice. I don't know. It's Pickle's turn, apparently. Oh. He's doing the thing where he prepares for the hunt without telling us what the hunt's going to be. I like how I'm facing away from him, but I can still check his stuff. He's checking my stuff right now. It is an interesting set. You don't see people using sets like this all that often, but... He's really eyeing it. He's like, what's going on here? Divine Blessing is a bit of a bonus skill. It doesn't have any great bearing on... Wait, did he say skip? He didn't say skip. What's going on? I guess he can't speak English or something. Asuka just went and posted anyway. What is going on? Jun entered the hub. What's your loadout? Oh, could have guessed, honestly. Could have guessed. Alright, well, it's Tigrex again. I suppose Asuka has made this room because he wants to do Tigrex. Well, Asuka is a female name, but is it a female player? That is the question. I'll use Greatsword. Greatsword is fun with this monster, and I will use the Toyo Hisa sword because I just don't use it these days. I don't know what it is about the Toyo Hisa sword, I've just not been making use of it. I almost always want to deal elemental damage. The novelty of the Toyo Hisa sword has worn off, I suppose we could say. But perhaps not for you, so I hope that you get some enjoyment out of it. It is a great sword that looks like a longsword, so it's very first gen. Because indeed, longswords in first gen were simply a weapon design. They were not differentiated from greatsword. So, yeah. It's a nice return. But to be completely honest, I feel that greatswords with a longsword weapon design are a little bit more true to life, because you have to understand that the long swords that are used by these people, these hunters, are so big, and they would actually be that fucking heavy in real life. I mean, can you see how long the hilt of this fucking blade is? It is incredible. Forget two hands. If you were a four-handed person, you could fucking wield this thing. It's gigantic. That's just the handle you're holding. The blade itself is taller than this man, so you really think this is going to be something you can comfortably swing around? These sorts of swords are fucking heavy. Are you kidding me? Alright, he has actually gone into the prep area. I thought he was still standing at the entrance. In which case I would have questioned why he had joined the room in the first place if he was just going to disappear. He's changed to Sword and Shield. He's using Death Grip. I can't complain about that. That's a good choice. In fact, he's... well, hold on. Razor Sharp, Sharpness +1, Critical Boost, Challenger +1. It's functional. It's not bad, but... yeah. We'll just say that it's fine. Ugh. Have I eaten? Yes. Just making sure. Pickle Joe is on the ground, apparently. Oh, he's had too much to drink. May or may not help in the hunt. Okay. This is not new. This is not new, okay? We know what the drunk animation looks like. It's been around for a while, man. And when I say a while, I mean longer than you've been playing Monster Hunter, probably. Keyword being probably. Sometimes you do get veteran hunters in here, but it's uncommon. He might be, given he's a higher hunter rank. That is an interesting question. Would there be a higher chance of a veteran hunter in this game being a high hunter rank or a low hunter rank? That's a really good question, because typically a veteran hunter will not be satisfied with a small amount of time played in a Monster Hunter game, but if they didn't like the game, then they're not going to play much of it. Now, are they more likely... Is there a higher chance of them liking the game or disliking the game? That really is what it comes down to. I don't know. It depends on how much they want to engage with the style system. I've talked about this before, but some people who played Generations and Generations Ultimate just couldn't reconcile the fact that styles and hunter arts existed. You know what? They don't mean anything to me. I don't have to use styles. People literally allowed styles to ruin this game for them. They were like, I can't possibly like this game as much as 4 Ultimate because this game has styles. Well, who's saying you have to use them? I haven't even used them. I am continuing my 4 Ultimate experience as we speak. I am well and truly in the end game of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and I am still unwilling to use Alchemy, Valor, Aerial, Striker, minus the Hammer. I think it's Hammer that I use Striker with. Whatever I use Striker with. No, it's Lance that I use Striker with. Only because it functions as traditional Hammer would. Don't you dare upswing me. Imagine doing the infinite axe chop. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. This is proof that he's not a veteran hunter. Right there. If I had any question in mind, yeah. He unreservedly upswings me, and he uses the infinite axe chop. You're an idiot. Fucking hell is what I'll say to that. Idiot. You want to apologize? Can't believe it. Infinite axe chop. Unless the monster is literally in a trap and you're aiming on the face, you're probably not going to get anything out of infinite axe chop. You really need to commit with that. If you're doing infinite axe chop and you're only getting like 1 or 2 hits in, even as many as 5, it's not worth it. Fuck that attack. It's just bad. It's stupid. Anyway. What happened, Koroku? You're not Twitch Prime anymore? What's happened? You had that Twitch Prime crown and now you don't have it anymore. What's happened? Or maybe that's the star. I don't know what the crown is. I don't even care. I don't care much about that. For someone who uses Twitch, I don't know anything about it. So, there you go. Oh, I've lost my purple sharpness. Not as bad in this game as others, but still not great. So I shall sharpen up. It's going to be a roar, which I am not in range of, which I'm happy to see. I did go for a dive there, but again, sometimes it's just not quick enough. It feels like the game can't match your fucking input. Turn around. Or don't. I'm glad I could still hit the fucking wing. Imagine if I were out of range with that. I was actually hoping for a turnaround on the face, but I had to redirect towards the wing, which I was fortunately in range to hit. I'd like to use Moonbreaker. It's very damaging, Moonbreaker 3. Oh, God. Oh, you removed the badge. Now it's back again, jeez. I wasn't concerned that you'd removed it, I was just surprised to see that it was not there. Anyway. These Bullfango don't affect me anymore. I've developed such a tolerance for... Are you fucking for real? Of all the moments in time to cut that tail, it would be just when I want to use... Don't do that. You've got high grade earplug, you asshole. You would not have been hit by a damaging attack from that position. Of course, the roar of the Tigrex does deal damage, so blocking it does not necessarily mean that you're purely blocking the roar. It's the damage created by said roar, which is incidentally not going to be blocked by earplugs. The force of it still exists. You know, unless a person has played Freedom 2, they don't understand how difficult the Tigrex is. Freedom 2 is actually a very different game to Freedom Unite. It looks the same, but it's very different. It's one of the most... I would say that the most surprising thing that I've experienced in playing Monster Hunter, like through playing multiple games, was the difference between Freedom 2 and Freedom Unite. I never knew. I always thought that the difference between Freedom 2 and Freedom Unite was the same as the difference between 4 and 4 Ultimate, and the difference between Generations and Generations Ultimate. It is not. It is not even close to being that. And the reason why is because of the era of Monster Hunter that it existed in. Freedom Unite made so many changes to the series that the vast majority of people just don't understand it. They think that they're second gen differences. The reason why people don't understand it is because most people haven't played DOS, which honestly is a bit more like first gen as far as most of us would be concerned. And most people have only played Freedom Unite because they assume that Freedom 2 is just a high-ranked version of Freedom Unite. Great. Great timing. Anyway. I'm gonna drink a fucking hot drink because I'm pissed. I don't even want to take advantage of that paralysis. I'm so annoyed by that. It's not anyone's fault, it's just awkward timing, that's all. But yeah, the point is that most people would look at the... And this was definitely how I looked at it. I felt that whatever I was seeing in Freedom Unite was a reflection of second gen versus first gen. So any Freedom Unite change that I was looking at while comparing to, for example, Freedom 1 or Monster Hunter 1 was indicative of a change made in second generation. It is not true. Most of those changes were actually from Freedom Unite specifically. The line drawn between first and second gen is more blurred than one might think. Because second and first gen were very similar until Freedom Unite came along. This is the point. It may be more convenient for the line between first and second generation to be more defined, but it's not. It's not that way in reality, that's the point. I don't know what on earth you're saying, Mumble, but thank you for your contribution. But yeah, Freedom 2 is very difficult. It's probably intended to be something of a portable version of DOS in terms of difficulty. You know, the most difficult game I've ever played in the Monster Hunter series is Monster Hunter DOS. And Freedom 2 sort of replicates that a little bit. Freedom Unite, I just don't know how to describe it. It's not as hard. You are not as challenged in that game. And if we were to compare the high rank of Freedom Unite to the high rank of Freedom 2, you would be looking at two different things. But added to that raw difficulty would be the fact that you've got what I had previously identified to be first-gen systems. Like, let me give you some examples, because at this point maybe some people would not understand what I'm even talking about when I say the line between first and second gen, at least as I previously understood it. In Freedom 2, you cannot stack items in the box beyond what you could put in your inventory. What this means is that things like honey can only stack to 10 in the box. Psychoserums can only stack to 3 in the box. Potions can only stack to 10 in the box. The box will have less spaces in it than almost any other game. Because, you know, this is the irony of it. Not only can you put less in the box, you've got less space in the box on top of that. Remember when I said that I always get Tigrex mantles? Yeah. I don't know what it is about this monster. He likes me a lot. He always showers me with mantles. If any of you thought that this was some kind of joke, or just me contriving an impression from nothing, no. This is real, and you are witnessing it. So, and you are free to look through all of my Tigrex hunts throughout the years, and you will find that this is exactly what you're looking at. I don't know what it is about this monster, but he always gives me mantles. Anyway, Freedom 2, furthermore, has no ability for the hunter to send items directly to the item box after a hunt. It has to be taken into the inventory. Which is an absolute nightmare. If you're going through the box, see how in this game I can press R and L to go backwards and forwards through the box? In Freedom 2 you can't do that. You have to press triangle, which only goes forwards. The only way you can get back to the first page is to go all the way to the last page and return to the first, using the triangle button. Whereas in Freedom Unite you can go back and forth. There are so many differences like that. I can't list them all because there is a huge number. It's incredible. But Freedom Unite changed everything. And because most people have only experienced Freedom Unite in 2nd gen, they've got no understanding of just how much Freedom Unite changed the game. I didn't have an understanding of it personally, because Freedom Unite was the game I started on. I hadn't played a Monster Hunter game before then, so I had no concept of it either. A lot of people will go back and play Freedom Unite and be disgusted with how old it is and how archaic and clunky it is, without actually understanding just how clean it was compared to everything that came before it. Freedom Unite was so clean, and I have a full understanding of that now, by way of experience, because I've played Freedom 2, because I've played DOS, because I've played Freedom 1, G, and 1, like the original Monster Hunter. I can go back to Monster Hunter Freedom Unite and actually feel like it's a modern, smooth expression of Monster Hunter. Whereas some people go back to Freedom Unite from, say, 4th generation, and they're like, this is unplayably clunky, this is just awful, terrible. Well, the journey that Capcom had to undertake to get to where they are, or where they were at the time, was immense. And it was not a measure of Capcom's inability to improve their game, it was a measure of just how fucked Monster Hunter 1 was. It was so fucked that it took that many games for them to fix it. Freedom Unite was literally the first game that became a playable version of Monster Hunter 1. I'm going to say that. It's a very unpopular opinion among the traditional hunters, but I would say that the first game to really become a full game, let's imagine that all the ones that preceded it were beta versions of great ideas, but they just couldn't achieve the status of good video game, well-designed video game. They didn't reach that point. They were just great ideas that were marred by terrible execution. Freedom Unite was the first game to do that. And then in 3rd gen, they perfected it. You know, they didn't depart from the rigid idea, the rigid concept of Monster Hunter, but they cleaned it up so well. They cleaned it up perfectly. You know, Freedom Unite was the epiphany for Capcom. They realized what the true balance of Monster Hunter was, and in my opinion, they achieved that perfectly with 3rd gen, minus Portable Third. Portable Third was Beta Team's idea of all that, and I don't agree with Beta Team's idea of it, but the idea is that... Oh, what happened now? Jun left and Junzai joined. What are the chances of that? I'm gonna bring a joke weapon. It's a fucking capture the Seregios quest. As if I'm gonna take it seriously. What joke thunder weapons do I have? Anyway, the point is that, Capcom had a lot of work to fix Monster Hunter. They had a lot of work to do. Let me actually bring... I've changed my mind. I'm going to bring Blunt Lance, and I'm going to bring Poison. Sorry, I'm taking so long. Everyone's got a different perspective. I suppose after everything I've said, the question then arises, why Doomlink after everything you've just said? With the full meaning of what you've said taken into consideration, do you play first generation Monster Hunter? Why do you play Monster Hunter 1? If it's such a mess, if it's so broken, why do you play it? And I'll tell you why. It's because when you go backwards through the series, when you've forced yourself to adapt to that rigid style, you start to appreciate it. And it might be beyond logic, it might be hard to make sense of, but there is a beauty to it. There is absolutely a beauty to it. There is a reason why people play those games. It is not because they are... It's not because they're objectively better. It's not that at all. There is no objectivity present. I think that there is objectivity when one says that Freedom Unite was the best expression of old Monster Hunter, and then 3rd generation was able to improve upon it further without compromising the original spirit of Monster Hunter. I think that's subjective. I mean, maybe it's subjective because people would disagree. Perhaps anything that can be disagreed on is suddenly made subjective. That, in and of itself, is the subject of a very deep and epistemological, philosophical argument. But, which I'm not going to get into now. But the point is that first generation Monster Hunter is appreciated not for its quality, but rather the experience of playing it and the romanticism associated with that. There is something romantic about very old Monster Hunter. And if you can desensitize yourself to everything wrong with it, what is left is something very special. Seriously. I mean, if you can actually push aside all of the problems with it, which requires desensitization, you can't call that learning to appreciate it. It's not that. You actually have to make yourself so numb to the issues that they don't bother you anymore. And then you realize that there's... what you're left with at that point is the concept. The raw concept of traditional Monster Hunter is great. It's just the execution was so bad that you have to desensitize yourself to that terrible execution to the extent where you're able to enjoy the pure concept. And I do enjoy the pure concept now, because my gateway was Monster Hunter Freedom 1, which was already terrible for a number of reasons. But using that as a gateway into first-gen Monster Hunter on the PS2 allowed me to actually appreciate first-generation Monster Hunter as a concept, rather than as a Monster Hunter game that is fully functional and well-designed, because that is not what first-generation Monster Hunter is. It is not fully functional. It is barely functional. It is certainly not well-designed, but there is a very clear characteristic of old Monster Hunter that is not only inimitable, but has not been replicated by even Capcom in the later games. We are so lucky that we did not kill that. I almost can't believe it. I almost can't believe it. We're very lucky. Why am I consuming a Psycho Serum if it's already paintballed? Let's try to get a trap down. If multiple people put down a trap, then that's fine. Will he come straight for me? I think he will. Yep, look at that. Oh, you've got trank shots, thank God for that. Nice work, Junzai. I was too busy being thrown away. The charm of old Monster Hunter is what it is, Koroku. When you can actually extricate yourself from the challenges of the execution, the charm of it is what's left. The concept of Monster Hunter and the charm associated with it is what is left, and there's a lot of enjoyment there. And I think the only way that you can appreciate that, and this is what caps off the point, it is the fact that I've played so much Monster Hunter before then that I'm willing to invest. I'm willing to invest in purging all sensitivities to bad game design to be able to enjoy it. And now that I've done that, it's like the scales have fallen from my eyes and I can see what's special about it. But simultaneously, and I think this is an indication of a balanced point of view, I can appreciate what's special about it whilst simultaneously being able to completely trash it, as I did through my explanation of all generations of Monster Hunter, and how Freedom Unite was the first game that wasn't broken. You know, to suggest that all games prior to Freedom Unite were broken is a pretty harsh criticism, but in my opinion it's absolutely true. I can go to those older games and play them and enjoy them, fully enjoy them, and in some cases even prefer them to the non-broken games, whilst being able to at the same time refer to them as broken. It's because sometimes a concept can trump even game design and execution, and those two things are, in many respects, one and the same, at least when it comes to Monster Hunter. And I think the only way to really reach this level of erudite evaluation of Monster Hunter is to play it for as long as I have. And I'm not unique in that respect. I don't say that to suggest that I'm somehow this uniquely learned player of Monster Hunter. I'm not. There is a whole community of people like me and much more experienced than me. But the only way you can reach this point is by literally having grown up with it, I think, and to have become deeply committed to it. There was a time when I was equally committed to Monster Hunter as I was the Soul series, because I picked them up at the same time. I played Freedom Unite and Demon Souls in 2009, and they were both extremely important games to me at that time. But in the fullness of time, Monster Hunter has become the dominant series in my life. There are more of them, there are more games in the series, and quite frankly, there's so much fucking going on in them that It's incredible. And you know what? You know what sounds really crazy to almost anyone? After I've said all of this, I can actually very comfortably say that I have no respect for Capcom. I have no respect for Capcom at all. And you know why? It's because they've blundered their way through this. I'm able to get the enjoyment that I get out of all of these games in spite of Capcom, I think. I don't think it's thanks to Capcom. I have no respect for Capcom. I think they're a bunch of assholes, and I really think that they're totally inept. I really do. I have no respect for them. So, it's very rare to be so deeply invested in a series, while simultaneously disliking the people who made it. Not only am I invested... What's going on? Not only am I invested in the series, I suppose you could say I'm obsessed with it. And yet I have no respect for the people who made it. And that's a long story in and of itself. I'm not going to broach that subject seriously, and with the intention of bringing you on board with me. It's like, let's all go on a witch hunt against Capcom. No, I'm not going to be encouraging that or inciting that.